What's up, everybody? It's Jeremy here from Ocean Bound, and today I wanted to talk about paddling. I've been at it for a few months, and I'm no expert by any means, but I figured I'd share some of my experience in case, it helps some of you who just happen to be, starting your paddle journey. Now, I'm a winger at heart, and I've been skeptical of this downwind stuff from the start. I don't know if I can give up the rad wave days, but one of the reasons why I bought a board in the first place was that I could use it on the flatwater down the street from my house. So I've been working on it. I've logged over 40 paddle sessions in the last 8 months or so, and I've been seeing results. So here's some of the stuff that I've learned or that's worked for me. So it all started with the downwind board. Picking the right downwind board was daunting. Maybe it's easier now. I ended up getting a 107 liter board. I'm 77 kilograms. I later heard that James Casey has been recommending getting a board with the volume that's 1.4 times your kilogram weight, and that would be the liters that you would get. And my 107 ended up being, basically right on the money there. In the beginning, I totally wish I went bigger, but now I'm cool with it. Bigger means more stable, and they're just, easier to paddle. I got a V1 Armstrong, board, which has a pretty flat bottom, which seems to give it some stability. A few of my friends have those original Dragonflies, and they have more volume than my board. Man, those boards are sexy, and they paddle up to speed quicker than mine does, but they seem to kind of roll easier and in ways a little less stable than my Armstrong. So there's just always going to be a give and take. Now, I also picked up a 1675 advanced pump foil to start my journey. So, it's definitely a decent foil for starting out and paddling. I've tried my friend's 7Seas 1500 and another friend's lift setup, and the 1675 definitely has more going on and helps in the beginning. I also have a 1350 now, which suits my current needs, as it's just a little faster, turns better, and still has great lift and pump. And ultimately, I feel like when I'm downwinding, I want to be on my high aspect 1180 because it's just more nimble and just more fun all around, but it still has good glide and pump. And by the way, after a lot of attempts, I'm finally able to paddle that thing up on the flat, which is just super exciting to finally get there.
Wow, that has made my week, and it's Monday.
So I got a board and a foil, and I started paddling. And from there, you just start going down this crazy rabbit hole. You're inevitably gonna think that your gear is holding you back, and it could be. I remember thinking, I must have my mast in the wrong place, or maybe like my foot placement is off, or if only I had straps, my front foot would stop inching up, or my stab, maybe, I need a better stab, a 202 or a 220, is bigger or smaller better, and should I shim the stab, or shim my mast? Or my paddle, that must be it. I need a bigger paddle. My shoulders hurt, so was that because my paddle was too big? Or was my shaft too long? Maybe my board isn't long enough, or thin enough, or not the right volume, or the shape is off. Or it's gotta be my foil. I just don't have a big enough foil, or maybe it's too slow. All of these things go through my head, and they're totally worthy of experimenting and kind of figuring out on your own. But really, at this point, I can say that so much comes down to technique. Coming into this, I used to sup, I thought I could paddle, but I quickly found that I was just lacking power, stamina, speed, and technique. And this stuff just does not come overnight. And I think that frustrates a lot of people. I'm gonna say it now. If you are getting into paddling with the intention of downwinding or paddling up on the flat, it takes time and effort. So stop kidding yourselves thinking that you can get this in just 1 or 2 sessions. It will most likely take many. The first few sessions, I had to hone in on my paddle technique. I had to relearn how to paddle. I was used to standing with my feet next to each other on the sup, so changing the stance, having 1 foot forward, and then adjusting for that while paddling took a couple sessions to be able to paddle straight with like a reverse J stroke and stay balanced. Maybe 3 sessions in, I stopped thinking about the stroke, and I could just paddle straight, or at least, in whatever direction I wanted without having to think about it. I tried to practice standing and paddling both ways with both feet forward, and then I found out that I was really only good pumping with my left foot forward, so I ended up just really focusing on that side. I used an old Jeremy Riggs video as like my base technique, and I do think that there's many different paths that you can take. It's worth trying different things, and it's also good to stick to kind of one method just so you have something to focus on, whether that's Coach Casey or Jeremy Riggs or somebody else. I'll post the video link in the description, but these are the things that I really focused on from this video. Reaching forward, top arm relatively straight, bending your knees as your paddle catches in the water, and then you pull through and finish the stroke by your front foot, and as you take your paddle out, you extend your legs. And there's a few more drills in that video that are worth seeing, but those are the points that I really focused on. But one drill that I came up with a little over 2 months ago that really worked for me involved working on speed. I started paddling with small, quick, light powered strokes, focusing on two things specifically: reaching forward and bending my knees at the catch. So quick strokes, little power, focusing mainly on those two things, trying to be clean with the paddle, keeping the top arm straight too. And I started doing sets with reps of like 30, and then I'd start adding more from session to session. Reps of 40, then 50, 60, 70, 100. I'd do as many as I could in a session. And the speed, but not the power, helped my technique. Increasing reps at a quick speed built up my stamina pretty quick, and bending my knees became more intuitive and second nature, which really ended up helping make the transition from paddling to pumping. I'd focus on this method for most of my session, and maybe, of course, near the end of the session, I'd start to add a little bit more power and try to get up on foil, but my focus of these sessions, at least for a while, was not getting up on foil. It was about getting better. And if you work on this sort of drill for a few weeks, everything will come together. You will get faster. You will build stamina. Your strokes will get more powerful. Your technique will improve, and your legs will get synced with your paddle stroke. And about the legs, this past week I saw Gwen do a video about how important leg pumping is. And personally, it took me a while to get to where I was actually getting up on foil. And then when I did, it was just awkward transferring from a paddle to the leg pump. And it wasn't until I started working on that drill that I just mentioned for a few weeks that my legs really started to sync up appropriately, and I realized how connected getting up is with your legs. So I totally agree with Gwen. Your leg pumping is probably about 60% of that game, and then it goes for both, getting up on foil and obviously staying up on foil too. I totally overlooked this at the beginning, and maybe 2 months ago I started to realize how important my legs were to the process of getting up on foil. So at some point, it all kind of clicked. I got faster, my stamina improved, my power just increased naturally. My rhythm with the paddle and the legs was getting a lot better. And now that I'm getting up consistently, I'm working on the leg pumping, and I still feel like I have a long way to go, but I'm happy with my progression. It's all about focusing on the micro adjustments and the little gains in the process instead of, just that end goal of getting up on foil. Everyone wants to get up on foil, and you get frustrated when you can't right away. So don't focus on getting up. If you're coming in hot with not a lot of paddle experience, you need time to work on your skills. Power, stamina, speed, and technique will all come with persistence. Go out and do as many reps, of that drill as you can in lower power mode in like a 30 to 60 minute session, and maybe at the end you can try some big strokes to get on foil, but that's not the purpose of your early paddle sessions. You want to get good at technique and a fast cadence. And as you start to get to the point where you're paddling and getting up on foil, your cadence will actually probably be slower, but if you can make your technique pretty good at speed, you should be better off in chop when you're trying to get up, when you're just surrounded in chaos. Muscle memory is huge. Less to think about, the better. And there's just a couple stragglers about gear that are worth noting. As far as stabs go, I've been using the 220 high aspect glide tail, the 202 pump tail, and then the 140 dart. I like them all for different reasons. The 140 is like a quick cadence to it, which kind of matches my paddle cadence and makes a really easy transition for when you start getting into the air, especially when I'm using like the 1675. The 202 pump tail didn't really feel right at first, and so I got the 220 glide tail, and it felt better as I was just starting to get up, but I feel like I could feel a little more drag on that one. Now, of course, I prefer the 202. I tried all different shim combinations with all of these stabs. What I ended up gravitating to is using 1.5 degrees of shims, which is what I wing with. And you know, my mast can stay basically in the same place on the boards. And I do shim my mast 1 degree in the rear to offset the 1 degree of rake the Army puts in the high modulus mast that they make. That just feels like I have a little less drag when I paddle forward. And the actual paddle size and height, I had a small bladed paddle that I used to sup with that it wasn't really giving me enough power. I think that was around 82 square inches. So I went with a 94 inch. And you know, I tried a friend's 105 quick blade Ono Ava, and that just felt too big. I couldn't paddle fast with it, but it did feel like I could muscle my way up a little better. But honestly, it just felt too much. Going back to the beginning, my shoulder hurt for a few months, and I wondered if the paddle size or the shaft length had something to do with that. A friend of mine suggested it was just my body getting used to it all, and it did eventually end up going away, so I do actually think he was right. But man, I thought hard about paddle choices for a while, whether I needed more angle or length or size. Now, ideally, I'd prefer a paddle with a blade size a little less than what I have, so maybe like a 90-inch blade. There's so many factors that you can obsess about, so many rabbit holes that you can go down, and it's frustrating, but commit to the time, don't expect results right away, and some of you will be able to get it quicker than others. I certainly thought I would. Look for the little wins in every single paddle session. Set small goals, keep at it, you got it. And can I just say one annoying thing? Once you watch one foil drive video on YouTube, they just keep popping up in your feed and they're tempting you like crazy. So just stay steady, don't do it, focus, you got it. So this is the state of me and paddling, an update on my struggle journey that I haven't really shared that much of, but it's full of hard work and persistence and stoke. Honestly, it was either this or doing a video on foil drive. My friend Brad, he just got a foil drive and I don't want him to think that I'm attacking him. So I may update you more as I get, you know, into doing successful downwind runs, or maybe do some updates on gear, but I may not be covering all of my sessions, but I'm out there working on it. So I'm just curious, let me know if you're out there paddling too. So that's all I got this time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you're all doing well out there. Hit subscribe if you want to see some more, and I wish you all an awesome day. Later.